Hey, it's Jorge from brewbeeranddrinkit.com, and today what I'm going to be doing is a beer review of the Berliner Weisse that I brewed. There's a lot of cool things that I learned while brewing this beer. A lot of things that I'm going to be sharing here in the near future. But today I just want to kind of give you an overview of this beer and kind of teach you a little bit about what I learned, some of the mistakes, so that you can learn from mistakes. Again, I've been moving more towards sharing my mistakes more so than things that I do and how to do things, because I think you can learn more from mistakes than actual techniques. So that's my goal that I'm going to be doing with this beer. So to start out, I think the sourness in this beer, it has a very good sourness with it, but one of the things that I've noticed is that it's not as sharp as I probably want it to be, and the main reason for it is because I didn't leave the beer sitting long enough on the lactobacillus delbruckii, and that was mostly because there was a lot of things that I was kind of concerned about at the time. I let the beer sit for about 4 days on the lacto alone. I should have left it about 7 days. So I probably added the yeast a little bit too early, and so that's probably why I didn't get as much sourness as I wanted to. However, there is a lot of sourness in this beer. I was just looking for a lot more sourness, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I would probably do with this beer in the near future is to actually let the beer sit on the lacto alone for an extra 2 or 3 days to increase that sourness with it. So as you can see, the head retention is not very good, and mostly it's because of the sourness, and it's supposed to be a kind of low protein beer, and also I just started to force carbonate this, so it's actually not really fully carbonated, but anyways, other than that, the beer is very pale, as you can see. It has a very bready, and this is something that I noticed, mostly from the yeast, a very bready kind of flavor to it. Dusseldorf Alt, yeah, I think I used Dusseldorf Alt beer, so it's kind of like a ale, German ale yeast. It gives the beer kind of like a sourdough bread kind of feeling. And then the sourness is, if you know what the sourness from yogurt is like, you pretty much can imagine what the sourness is like in this beer. So very, very refreshing. I'm actually I'm in Phoenix, so it's actually already kind of warm here, so it's a kind of nice beer to have around, when it's warm. It's very refreshing. So overall, I think it's a very good recipe. Has a little bit of a fruity character, not too much. I'm quite satisfied with the beer. So if anything, the main thing that I would do next time is to leave the beer sitting a little bit longer on the lacto. So just to go over what I did, I pitched the lacto. Again, I did not aerate the wort at all, and that kind of helped the lacto get a fast start on the beer. And then I pitched the yeast about 4 days later. One thing that I noticed when I pitched the yeast, as soon as I pitched the yeast, the beer just started fermenting right away. There was no lag time whatsoever. It was almost an immediate fermentation. So there's a lot of things that I just discovered just by going through that. I had read a lot about it. I knew the theory behind it, but it wasn't until I actually saw it in practice that I actually was able to understand a lot more of it. So anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you. So again, when I made the part 1 of this video, since I wasn't sure about all these things, I was kind of stating that up front, making sure that you didn't do it until I made this video. So now that I've made this video and the beer came out good, I'll go ahead and say that you can go ahead and brew the beer just as I described on the first video. And if anything, the one thing that I will change is rather than leave the beer sitting on the lacto for 4 days, I'll probably push that up to about 6 or 7 days. Probably 7 days will be about the best. And again, a lot of that you have to pay attention to your beer. You can't just go by time. You can't just go by, you know, I'm starting to talk a lot about this, where you can't just go by measuring things, where if you pitch a vial of yeast, then you're going to let the beer sit for X amount of time. You can't just go by that. You have to pay attention to what's going on with the beer. Sometimes the yeast are more active, sometimes they're less active, and you have to look at the beer, and based on that, it's more of an intuitive thing where you just know when it's the right time to move on to the next step or do something else with the beer. So for this beer specifically, 4 days, I found that it wasn't enough, and when I pitched the yeast, I kind of had a gut feeling that it was too soon, but I went ahead and did it anyways. That was my mistake. So for next time, I'm probably going to let it a little bit longer. I'm thinking about 6 or 7 days. Again, I'm going to decide based on what's going on, you know, in the fermentation. You know, have to look at the wort. Is it clearing up? Is it not? Is there croissant forming? Those kinds of things. So, so that's it for that. You know, look forward to sharing more information about sour brewing and all that in the future, and hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy this beer. Talk to you later.